In the cold shadow of World War I, Europe was already reeling. But in January 1918, Finland, a small nation newly freed from Russian rule, descended into a civil war that would leave a deep scar on its national identity. What began as a hopeful step toward independence turned into a violent showdown between two visions of Finland's future. The two factions were known simply as the Reds and the Whites. The Reds, made up largely of working-class citizens, laborers, and socialist revolutionaries, sought to transform Finland into a people's republic inspired by the recent Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. They were backed indirectly by the Soviets and fueled by the hope of social equality, workers' rights, and a radical shift in power. On the other side stood the Whites, a coalition of conservative forces, landowners, nationalists, and army officers who wanted a capitalist, Western-aligned Finland, free from socialist ideology. They were led by General Carl Gustaf Mannerheim, a former Russian army officer with a vision of a strong, united Finland under traditional values and military discipline. What unfolded between January and May of 1918 was a brutal civil war that shocked the Nordic world. Over 36,000 people died, in battle, in prisons, or by execution. Entire villages were divided. The front lines cut across farms, towns, and even churches. What made this war especially tragic was the lack of mercy. Both sides committed atrocities. The Reds executed landowners and clergy. The Whites carried out mass executions of captured Reds in what became known as the White Terror. In the aftermath, tens of thousands of Reds were sent to prison camps, where disease and starvation killed thousands more. And here's the twist. This wasn't a war of strangers. It was neighbors, families, co-workers, schoolmates. Some fought side by side in World War I, and now found themselves staring at each other down the barrel of a rifle. The white side emerged victorious by May 1918. Finland would go on to become a democratic republic, but the price was silence. For decades, the memory of the Civil War was pushed aside. Monuments were built for the victors. The Reds were labeled traitors. Conversations about the war were taboo in Finnish homes. It wasn't until generations later that Finland began to confront this painful chapter. In schools, in museums, in literature. The story of Finland's Winter of Blood is now told not just as history, but as a warning. If your country were torn between equality and tradition, which side would you choose, and what would you risk for it?